my beautiful rebels and questioners of authority. I am Lydia Lazara, founder of Questions Authority Coaching and creator of At the Intersection of Mystical and Mundane, the podcast you are currently listening to. So thank you so much for joining me. I have an announcement for this episode, so it's going to be a short one. I am switching a little bit from the format that I started with, which was sharing sometimes my short stories or parables that I had written or a guided meditation, and then in one episode, and then kind of talking through the lessons learned or to be learned or had in the next episode. And I'm going to be shifting into more of sharing stories, which kind of fits with what I was doing, but I'm going to be sharing other people's stories. As I have healed and uncovered more of my inner child, and as I've connected more with younger children in my life by substitute teaching and by just visiting friends with young kids, or my nieces and nephews now starting to have kids of their own, I find myself wishing that I could share my love for that story time that I had with my parents growing up, where we would read books together. And I have this beautiful collection of junior deluxe editions. And it's not complete, but if you look up junior deluxe editions, then you'll see what I'm talking about. These are books that were printed, I think, between like 1905 to 1955, something like that. And they are these older stories. Most of them are out of copyright, and that's kind of a criteria for what's going to be shared on the podcast. They have to be out of copyright, so I'm not infringing on anyone's copyright works. But they're works, there's stories, they're books, there's novels that I grew up loving and reading and oftentimes rereading. And to be fair, it's like I said, these are older books, and these were editions. So they took books that had been published previously and made their own editions of these books. So, for example, I have Louisa May Alcott's Little Women and Joe's Boys and Little Men. And I have um, Mark Twain's Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. But where I'm actually starting is a collection that is called Myths Every Child Should Know. And these are predominantly from Greek mythology, and oh, I love them. I always loved Greek mythology and Roman mythology. Well, any mythology. It's always been fascinating to me, and I think it's a perfect place to bring in that mystical into the mundane. We used to explain the things that were unexplainable using myths. And now we explain the unexplainable using science. And both are simply explaining the magic and the mystical that's in everyday life. And there's something beautiful about that. I think the difference for me between the explaining it with myths versus explaining it with science is that explaining it with science has shifted our perspective, and in so many ways for most of us, especially as we grow older, we really lose that connection to the mystical. We lose that fascination, that curiosity in the everyday ordinariness that surrounds us. And I want to bring that back. I've brought it back into my life, and I want to bring it back into yours. So whether you join me with your favorite child or children, or you listen on your own, I hope that you start to enjoy the stories that I'm sharing and you start to shift how you look at the world around you every day. You don't have to suddenly like disown science or facts or whatever. That's not what this is about. It's about recognizing that just because we have an explanation for it doesn't make it any less magical or incredible or beautiful or amazing. Bring the awe back into your life every day. That's that's where you start to invite more creativity into your life, more joy, more happiness. It's a wonderful way to practice that openness, that vulnerability in a way that is childlike but not childish. Because there is a difference. And when you're a child, be a child. Keep playing, keep exploring, be childish when you're a child. That's wonderful. You're meant to be a child with all the things that go with it. And oftentimes with children, they have this innocence that is also ignorant because the ignorance comes from not knowing. You haven't lived, you haven't experienced, you haven't learned. And that's okay. As you grow older, you start to lose that ignorance. But with the way the world's designed, you start to lose that innocence also. But you can reclaim and rediscover, uncover your innocence again. You don't have to stay hardened in this shell, completely protected and shielded from the world. When you do that, when you let those experiences harden you rather than simply mature you, you cut off that innocence and you cut off so much joy that you could be experiencing, so much abundance in beauty that is right there waiting for you. And I so desperately want that for everyone in this world. So I'm reclaiming and uncovering my innocence, realizing it's not lost, it's not gone forever. We've just twisted our view of innocence to the point that it makes us feel as adults that we can never get it back. And it's not true. That's a lie. So I invite you to join me at the intersection of mystical and mundane. My hope is to start releasing stories every week from the books that I have. And as I start with the myths, it'll be one myth or one short story each week. And when I move into some of the novels, it'll be one chapter or one section each week, progressing as we go. I hope that this returns a little bit of that childlike joy and curiosity to you. And I know that some of the language, a lot of the language in these books, it's quite antiquated. And there's going to be some things that aren't necessarily easily understood, even by the adults these days. And I invite you to really just be curious and allow yourself to look up words or infer from context. And it's okay if you get it wrong. You're going to get the gist of what's going on, even if you don't understand every single word. And I invite you to help the little ones in your lives that you listen to this podcast with. And I am so excited to travel along with you to the intersection of mystical and mundane. And I want to dedicate this podcast to Nora, Kitty, Josie, Jiva, Anne, and Liara. I hope you enjoy these stories as much as I do. Keep playing, keep exploring, keep imagining, and never get boring. I love you so much.